What's going on, everybody? This is Marcus. I'm at Second and Charles. Just want to talk about the X-Men 97 episode 8 review. It's been great. I love the episode so much, and there's just so much to talk about. The cameos and the episode and the three-part finale, which is called Tolerance is Existence. I'm looking forward to seeing how the episode is actually going to end. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So you guys, episode is definitely phenomenal. X-Men 97 in general has been a great series so far, and I've definitely been enjoying it. It's definitely one of my favorite Marvel adaptations of the entire series. Of course, it's a continuation of the X-Men animated series from 1992, and I've been enjoying it. Just every episode that always ends in a cliffhanger has always been just leaving me at the edge of my seat. Oh, you guys, it's just been so amazing, and I've been enjoying it so far too, especially as a lifelong Marvel Comics fan though. But one thing I definitely want to point out is that, especially with the cameos, you can't miss them. They're definitely everything that you expected. And of course, the main villain for the three-part series is Bastion. Of course, Bastion first came out in 1997. He was also part of the Operation Zero Tolerance program, which allows to eradicate humans and mutants at the same time though. So he's actually part Nimrod and part Sentinel at the same time, and episode 8 actually talks about his origin in particular. So we actually do see Bastion's origins, and in this episode we actually do see Scott, Jean, and Cable. They team up, and then they had their family dynamics, which was actually really cool. So I'm glad they actually point that out as well though, especially with the trailer. But they were actually going to the home place where Bastion is from, and then they actually met his mom. His mom actually appeared in One Man's Worth in the original X-Men series, and that's pretty cool. They actually put the cameo there as well though. So it's just those Easter eggs, especially that they actually point out in the series, has actually been phenomenal as well though. But man, it's just so cool that they're pretty much always putting out the Easter eggs though. But then on top of that, Bastion actually kidnaps Magneto, which was actually previously explained in episode 7, especially in the episode where Rogue actually went on a rampage, especially after the fallout with Genosha. And so we know that Bastion is responsible for the ordeal. Now, I know I've heard some people have actually pointed out it by saying that, and I was one of them too, that Cassandra Nova might be involved, but chances are I don't think that she's going to show up by the end of the three-part season finale. But we do know that Cassandra is actually going to show up in Deadpool and Wolverine, so that I'm actually excited about though. So like I said, basically if she does show up, it'll probably be by the end of the season. And more than likely, I have a feeling that part 3 could end up at a cliffhanger. So that's what I'm thinking as well. But if she does show up, it'll definitely be a last minute thing though. But the way they're actually going with it, I have a feeling that something big is going to happen too though. But I'll get to that in a second though. But one thing I definitely want to point out is that in this episode, we do see Bastion. He actually uses the humans and turning them into Sentinels, or half-human Sentinel hybrids. And then we have a few Easter eggs here and there, especially when Bastion was talking to Dr. Doom and Baron Zemo at the same time. So I have a feeling that we're probably going to get the Fantastic Four and the X-Men involved as well, because if you think about it like this, like the Marvel universe in particular, they have heavy hitters. The heavy hitters as far as super teams go are the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men. And of course, especially with the heavy topics that they've always been dealing with, as far as like just dealing with the miscommunication or dealing with the injustice of humans and mutants in particular, just dealing with those topics, like considering the fact that if you look at it like this, like the X-Men came out in the 60s, Fantastic Four came out in 1961, the Avengers came out in 62, about a year later, and then you have the Fantastic Four that came out around that same time too. And when the X-Men first came out, that was during the height of the civil rights movement. And then you think about like this, the Fantastic Four came out, of course, during the time where everyone was inventing the rocket and people were going into outer space. Like Neil Armstrong was the first astronaut to go into outer space. And then that was during the atomic age, as one might call it. Like, for example, Dr. Robert Oppenheimer. Of course, I've seen the Oppenheimer movie, which is really great, but of course he was the one that invented the atomic bomb. So it's interesting enough that the Fantastic Four came out and we had 4 human beings that went into outer space and they were exposed by cosmic rays and they gave them extraordinary powers. The X-Men, of course, is based on the civil rights movement, and then we also have the Avengers, who are basically Marvel's answer to the Justice League. So basically heroes coming together, that sort of thing. So with the cameos that we actually did see, we could end up seeing an animated version of the X-Men versus Avengers or X-Men versus Fantastic Four, especially with the comic book run that we've seen in the original comics as well, where X-Men and the Avengers have crossed paths multiple times though. So I would love to see a modern take on the adaptation, which would be really awesome though. So, but besides those cameos, I did see a female who was talking to Bastion as well. She looked exactly like Madame Mask. I have to go back and look at the clip again just to make sure. It may not be of importance, but I'm a perfectionist when it comes to finding Easter eggs, so I gotta find that just to make sure though. But again, more than likely it could have been Madame Mask, but if it wasn't, then it could have been not anybody in particular though. But I'll go back and check again, and I can also look at New Rock Stars too, and I always follow those guys as all, so shout out to them, of course. So one of the things I want to point out too is that besides the cameos I mentioned, we did see a really cool cameo. That was Spider-Man finally showing up, especially when Magneto actually went to New York. He was actually freed by Valerie Cooper. Now, everybody's been saying that Valerie Cooper is Mystique in disguise, and everybody's been talking about that. So if it's true that she's been Mystique this whole time, and I find it interesting enough that she freed Magneto in this particular episode, and then Magneto is now on the loose, and he actually let out an EMP, which of course is an electromagnetic pulse, which is what EMP stands for. And then we see Spider-Man swinging. That was a really cool cameo too though. So it's funny that because I grew up watching Spider-Man the animated series in 1994, and I actually did get a shout out from Christopher Daniel Barnes, who actually is on board to playing Spider-Man again. Of course, CDB, Christopher Daniel Barnes, actually voiced Prince Eric in Little Mermaid, and he's still doing voice acting to this day. So if John Simford Jr., who is the head writer for Spider-Man animated series, gets the okay from Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios to do an adaptation of Spider-Man 98, which I believe everybody wants to see because people have been talking about this, especially now that we did see Spidey in the cameo. There's definitely going to be a work to where we can definitely see Spider-Man finish his story and finding Mary Jane and pretty much teaming up with Madam Web and to complete his quest to doing that though, because that episode actually ended on a cliffhanger. And you can go back and watch Spider-Man the animated series on Disney Plus to get the filler of what I'm talking about and what's happening too though. So, but again, shout out to Christopher Daniel Barnes. Thank you for the shout out, man. Definitely looking forward to meeting you and talking about other stuff too, so it's gonna be awesome. But yeah, other than that though, the episode is great. And then we actually have Professor X coming back to Earth, and then he's summoning his X-Men, and I cannot wait to see what part 2 is going to be like though. So of course Xavier told Alandra that he was going to go back to Earth to tend to his X-Men after when he saw the vision that Gambit was murdered by the Tri-Sentinels, and then the other mutants that were murdered during the massacre in Genosha, that whatever he had with Alandra will have to be put on hold. And so he went back to Earth to settle matters. And then now with Magneto on the loose, now going back to what my prediction is going to be. Now that Magneto's loose on the Earth, chances are we could be getting an Onslaught saga. And of course, this all started during the Fatal Attractions comic, which took place also in the 90s as well. And it's a classic comic, but basically what happened, gist of it is, to sum everything up, the X-Men were fighting Magneto. Magneto has had enough of dealing with humans, and he wanted to take matters into his own hands. And he actually did try Xavier's way, but since the Jim Lee era started, now we're getting an opportunity to see that taking place still. So, and chances are, if the season doesn't conclude to where we'll do see Xavier and Magneto in the final confrontation, that's what's going to happen for sure though. So, but I'm looking forward to it. If they're going to actually adapt Fatal Attractions into the X-Men 97 seasons, it's going to be amazing. But we'll definitely see. But I have a feeling we're going to see Onslaught, which I'm looking forward to seeing. But in Fatal Attractions, in the final bout, Xavier was final battling with Magneto, and he actually shut down Magneto's mind after Magneto took out Wolverine's adamantium claws, which was the reason why Wolverine was left boneless throughout the whole time. So whenever he would pull out his claws, you would see bone protrusions, and so that was the reason why Wolverine had bones for quite some time in the comics though. I gotta check and see how he actually got his bones back. But he actually does have his adamantium bones back now, but previously he didn't have them for quite some time though. So it wasn't until like in the early 2000s, especially during the new X-Men run titles, that Wolverine actually had his adamantium bones put back in. So, but it definitely traumatized Logan for quite some time. So, and they actually did adapt this into Wolverine's origins, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they adapted that into live action films as well though, which leaves me so excited to see Deadpool and Wolverine though. So it's gonna be amazing though. But yeah, I have a feeling that we're definitely going to see Onslaught eventually, depending upon how things go between the final 2 episodes of the first season of X-Men 97. I'm definitely looking forward to that though, but it's going to be amazing, you guys. I can't wait. So again, the entire series has not been a disappointment at all. I definitely love it. It's definitely one of the best. And like I said, even though the title actually does say tolerance is existence, basically, or tolerance is extinction, even though the title actually does say tolerance is extinction, it doesn't really give an indication that Cassandra Nova is going to show up at all. So again, going back to that, because when Bastion's cover first showed up in 97 in the original X-Men comic lore, it does actually say tolerance is extinction as well though. So we didn't really see Cassandra Nova until New X-Men issue 116. So again, even though I always based on the title episodes of where they're actually airing to, just because it actually says tolerance is extinction doesn't mean that Cassandra Nova is going to show up. If she does show up, if at all, it'll probably be a cliffhanger more than anything, because I really don't see them trying to crunch in Cassandra into the fold, especially after everything that's went down in the previous episode of X-Men 97. However, considering the fact that Cassandra Nova is going to be the primary antagonist in Deadpool and Wolverine, that's enough to be said as well though. So again, it's going to be interesting enough as it is, seeing Cassandra with her being the twin sister of Charles Xavier. And then, of course, she too wants to commit massacre on mutants and genocide at the same time. So she's no different than Bastion, because both of them are nuts in particular. So, but again, we'll definitely see what happens, you guys. again, I'm excited for this season. This season has been great. I love it. And X-Men 97 has not been disappointment at all. And I definitely cannot wait to see whenever they greenlit Spider-Man 98, to where we can see Spider-Man finish his story by going with Madam Web to find Mary Jane, and then also doing other episode adaptations as well. I remember reading about the other adaptations. I mentioned this before too, but reading about the other adaptations of what they were going to do. For example, they were going to do extra episodes as well, like for example with Spider-Man teaming up with Firestar and Iceman, and then being able to do a little bit of a small adaptation of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. That would be pretty awesome too though. So, but we'll see what happens. We probably won't get an answer anytime soon, but the fact that we did see Spider-Man in the recent episode of X-Men 97, well, more than likely we'll get a Spider-Man 98 animation adaptation. So the fact that everybody's been talking about it, then chances are is going to hear the vocals of John Senfer and Marvel Studios to team up, get together, get a greenlit, and then being able to just greenlit the whole series. So it'll be awesome. But like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing how Tolerance and Distinction is going to end. It's more than likely going to be crazy. I do miss Gambit. Gambit's my guy. He's my guy, mon ami. And hopefully, if it's true that he might come back as a Horseman, I'm cool with that. Just as long as we get the adaptation of X-Men Gold, where Rogue and Gambit finally get married. So hopefully, eventually, they'll have their happily ever after, because they're the it couple in the Marvel Universe. So I definitely would love to see that as well. And also, shout out to Lenore Zahn, who voices Rogue. She's been the voice of Rogue for over 30 years, and she's been doing a great job, especially with the entire cast of the X-Men 97 cast. They've been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to meeting the rest of them as well. I've met Cal Dye, who voices Wolverine. Great guy, phenomenal guy. All of them are awesome. Especially AJ Lacarcio, who voices Gambit too. So he's been doing a really great job. Previously was Chris Potter, who actually voices Cable, but AJ did a really great job voicing Gambit. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future's going to hold, especially for Gambit though. So, but you know what? Speaking of Cable, here is actually a Cable. Well, this is Cable's appearance in X-Force as well though. This is actually X-Force 28. Of course, we might get an X-Force adaptation as well though, so I'm looking forward to seeing that as well though. Seeing Cable is forming his own team of X-Force, because we do have X-Factor and X-Force in the Marvel Universe, especially in the X-Men universe. So we'll more than likely we'll get that eventually as well though. So, but either or, you guys, it's been amazing. I love being surprised by everything and by every episode as well. So I've been nothing but just impressed with X-Men 97. I had hopes that this series was going to do really well, just as long as they actually stick to the comic book source, which is what everybody actually wants. So again, I have not been disappointed. I love this series so much. It's been amazing, you guys. So, but let me know what you guys think in the bottom of the comments down below. I've got more reviews coming up, and shout out to my friends here at Second and Charles, Chris, and the rest of the staff. They're amazing. They're like family to me, so they're like my best friends, and I love them all. And I love the comic strip. I'm looking forward to just seeing what's going to happen with X-Men 97 and the rest of the Marvel Universe, especially with the MCU. I'm looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine as well, so I'll definitely do a review for that as well to give you guys my opinions about it. But from the way the trailer actually looks, it looks amazing, so I can't wait to see it. It's gonna be awesome, you guys. But I love y'all. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I love y'all. Be good to each other. Love each other. Excelsior. I'll catch you guys in the next one.